Good evening, everyone. Kalla here. Welcome to my live stream. Glad you could make it today. So, today we continue with my coverage for Otome Games Festival with the demo for Spell Candle. As usual, there are a bunch of links in the description. You'll find a bunch of links for this game specifically, including for their Kickstarter preview page. The Kickstarter is not open yet, but you can sign up for notifications when it does go live. And there's a link to Steam for wishlisting down there as well. There's also a link to the Otome Games Festival event itself on Steam if you want to check out everything else that's up there. There's a lot of sales going on. Yeah, hello Drag, hello Card. How are you doing? And let's get into this. How far are you willing to go to contain war in a glass dome? How many parents would you be willing to sacrifice? How many brothers would you kill? Would you grow numb to the pain? Become a zealous leader, willing to sacrifice anything for the greater good? Turn a blind eye to the orphans on the streets. Ignore those disabled, begging for coin. Steal, bribe, and extort for a chance at peace. How many decisions would leave you lying awake at night, counting the souls you sent to the slaughter? Can living in war for millennia truly be considered life? Hello, hello Nick, how are you doing? A loud whistle breaks the silence, rendering the carriage to a sudden stop. What other games were demos? Everything so far this week, Card. Everything for which the thumbnail's got a little Otome Games celebration icon on it. How am I? Not too bad. Looking forward to a long weekend. The tip of my quill shatters as it smashes into the paper before I can put down my next thought on the page. Identity control. The shout comes from outside and I put my notepad down, scoffing at the ruined nib. This was the third one today, and I'm tempted to throw my hands up in frustration and scream. I was selected to be the Arisian delegation's reporter for this year's Dread Festival. It should be considered a great honour to be able to report on your country's political victories, no matter how small. But you can't expect a caged bird to sing happily. I reach into my leather satchel to find my identification documents before stepping out of my petite carriage. I feel... Okay, what have we got? Pleased by the chance to stretch my legs. Yeah, probably. Annoyed that I have to go through this. Also, probably. Curious to finally get a peek at the outside. Yep. Or enthusiastic that we've likely almost reached our destination. Yeah, let's. A leg stretch is good after you've been cooped up in a vehicle for a long time. Just a few feet ahead, an elven woman is going through the papers of an older gentleman from our contingent. And what role do you fulfill within this delegation? Her voice is like the sharp-pointed end of an ancient spear. I am the senator representing the region of the Beastlands. The elf sniffs the air around the delegates and frowns. She's beautiful. Glimmering mercury eyes peek out from underneath short bangs the colour of milky quartz. Her skin, like deep iron ore, glitters gently in the rays of daylight. After a very thorough read of the men's identification documents, she hands them back to him without a word. I find myself nervous as the elf's long knife-like ears twitch and her attention shifts to me. I'd never seen anything like it. Her cold gaze examines me from head to toe before she reaches a hand out. Identification documents. I hand them over, and she scans through them quickly. Oop. Name. Kalla. Oop. Choose pronouns. We will go with she, her. And what role do you fulfill within this delegation? Okay. I was selected by the Empire to take an account of the Dread Festival for an article. I'm here to report on the mutually beneficial relationship between our nations. I will be writing a positive piece about Quilangular's leadership, or I plan to record our general's involvement in foreign affairs for our newspapers. I think the first one. I was selected by the Empire to take an account of the Dread Festival for an article. Her eyebrows raise slightly at my response. After a moment, she nods, accepting my explanation. And your general? Where could I find him? The question perplexes me. Though the delegation had been travelling for several weeks, I hadn't encountered the infamous Shadow Master once. Had I? Upon seeing my bewildered expression, the elf offers a small explanation. He was not in his carriage. Perhaps because he got bored of being confined in a turbulent box for days. Her voice responds before I can open my mouth to formulate an apology. I step back from the carriage and seek out its source. Strong entrance! Strong entrance there! Nope. Ooh, you can just scroll back. That's nice. Upon the wooden roof of my small carriage relaxed one of the most beautiful gentlemen I had ever seen. Leona vibes. Yeah, but also I think there's someone else that's also going to give us Leona vibes in a different way. But yeah. How long has he been up there? With his eyes closed, his expression was so serene that I found myself wondering if I'd misheard him speak. Shadow Master, may day and night preserve you. The man on the roof of my carriage opened his eyes and levelled the woman with a cold gaze. His eyes were the colour of the flags of our empire. The colour of blood and dangerous, forbidden things. I could hear the elven woman swallow from beside me so vividly that I wondered if the world around us had fallen quiet on purpose. May I please see your documents, General? A frown crossed his features before he quietly sat up, slid his feet over to the edge of the carriage, and jumped down with the grace of a cat. More Leona vibes. Here. He pushed a stack of documents that was so thick into the hands of the elf that it made me gape. It might take you a few days. He smirked, and I wondered where on himself he kept a pocket large enough to hold all that paper. The elf blinked, scanned through the first few pages, then flipped through the next few with shaky hands, her face growing paler by the second. Yeah, I am very intrigued as to why this stack of documents is so big. I am gonna peek. You catch the words permitted legal assassination, poisoning at discretion, lawful use of force to acquire necessary information, including dismemberment. The elf suddenly thrusts the pages back at the general and gives him a shaky nod and thank you, before wobbling off to the next carriage. Was that necessary? The man's notorious crimson gaze turns to me. She asked for my papers. He shrugged. It wasn't my fault she wasn't ready for what was on them. Somehow, this behavior does little to surprise me. Nah. I'll let you have that one, dude. An uncomfortable silence falls over us, and I notice the way his gaze wanders down below my waist, scrutinizing me. Frown crosses his lips. I follow his eyes and... Fuck! The inkwell I had left on the seat beside me must have spilled when the carriage came to a sudden halt. He's staring pointedly at a large black stain on the side of my pants. I hope you're not planning on wearing that to the welcome dinner. Of course not! I highly suggest not embarrassing yourself or the Empire by doing so. Everything about this man was irritating. It won't. The look he gave me was one of complete apathy. I grit my teeth. A loud, high-pitched whistle travelled from the gates ahead of us. Someone is giving us the all clear. The clicking of metallic hinges echo in the air, and I take it as my sign to return to the peace of my small carriage. I hope you have a good day, General. There wasn't a single sincere word in that sentence. He raised a set of eyebrows as I stepped into my carriage. Making sure to avoid the spilled ink, I turned around and shut the door in his face. A childish reaction, but his expression was well worth it. With blood pounding in my ears, I found a clean place to sit before the carriage resumed its movement shortly after, entering Omnis, the city of candlewax. The capital city of the elves. I find myself eagerly peeking out through the window, making a continuous effort to forget the fact that I may have angered one of the most dangerous men on the eastern continent. My eyes wander between the many tall buildings made of marble, adorned with golden embellishment, before lingering on the rectangular houses with roofs assembled from slabs of multicoloured quartz. Quartz roofs, huh? That sounds very pretty. Prettier than the marble and gold, in my opinion. They're illuminated by the withdrawing river of light, the path of the goddess of day. All structures bask in the warm rays, colouring in the various shades of brilliant oranges and golds. It is a breathtaking view. Quartz is relatively abundant. Though I guess having crystals of it large enough to roof a building would be difficult. We pass under a long archway of stone upon which I can hear the bubbling of running water. Ooh, an aqueduct. Dozens of half-burnt candles of sundry colours and sizes sit atop each visible surface. I find myself itching to see what the streets look like at night. My thoughts quickly bring me back to the journal in my lap. Quickly, I fetch a new quill from my bag and note down my initial impressions. After several days of travel, our delegation has finally arrived at Omnis, the legendary elven capital. The gates were guarded strictly, and our official documents and identities were checked for validity. This year, the Great Empire's leading envoy for the peace celebrations is the Shadow Master. Ooh, so this is how we're going to write it down, huh? He sports a unique brand of charm. Is a very polite way to say things. Or he is a very considerate leader, which is an absolute lie. I think I'm going to go with polite. Polite but accurate. He sports a unique brand of charm that inspires the awe of everyone around him. Like a hurricane or some other horrible natural disaster. He has a way with words. I am blessed to be able to experience the elves' exultation when around him. Did I already roll for Cruel? No. That's one of the things I'll be doing this weekend. At least I'm not the only one terrified of this monster. We meander through the roads for another 20 minutes before the carriage comes to a complete stop in front of the only building that looks terribly out of place. One multi, nice. That makes up for what the head mage put you through, I guess. A tall rectangular pagoda that serves as the Ares Empire's embassy at Omnis. As I disembark, I spot the general already disappearing past the red curtains. He doesn't spare me a glance. Oppressive prick. I'm given a small but pleasantly furnished room in the embassy, and quickly ditch my pack in there before heading out into the city. I need to find a tailor somehow. Okay, ask around. I follow a trail of the most expensive looking buildings. I tag after the most lavishly dressed elves on the main street. Or I take a map of the city from the embassy. I think I need a map. The map itself isn't as detailed as I'd like, but I can make out the names of the districts of Omnis, as well as a couple of points of interest. I decide to take a look around the Enclave of the Gods, the area of the Earth Elves first, since I'd read so much about how lavishly they'd lived. It takes me about 15 minutes of walking and skulking about weird alleyways before I spot a cylindrical structure of rose marble. 2 golden curtains embroidered with large designs of a spool with pink string hung from around its wide-open double doors. Well, that sounds like a tailor to me. Dark letters spell out the words, "The Hour of the Golden Ones," right above the entrance of the building. The gentle strum of a mandolin came from inside, heart-wrenching, intense, soulful and yet somehow welcoming. step inside, yet find myself incapable of spotting a single worker. At least not until 3 shadows of varying sizes shift from behind a paravan of curtains. They speak in some language I do not recognize. Wait patiently until I'm noticed, or call out. Let's be patient. I wait patiently, watching the outlines shift behind the curtains that sway at the mercy of the wind. A customer? The medium shadow queries. Smells like it. The smallest shadow, short and stubby, moved to face my direction, its voice high-pitched and snippy. Now is not a good time. I frowned, but I wasn't about to give up that easily. I need an outfit for a party tonight at the Arisian embassy, please. I kept my tone polite, but I knew an undertone of desperation had slipped in. I didn't want to see the general's smug expression directed at me tonight. A short silence followed, filled only by the gentle strum of the mandolin. We are very busy and... A predatory growl erupted from behind the paravan. Help her! The command rolled through the chamber with a low rumble. I felt myself tense as the tallest figure turned to face me from behind the curtain. But nature... The growl grew louder. As you wish, Natura. The tone was reverent, obedient. Language now fully switched to common. The paravan of curtains rustled as a short elf that looked to be within the late years of his lifespan stepped out to help me. Right this way. I was quickly led behind another small paravan. I am Cupio, one of the designers of the Hour of the Golden Ones, and your extra hand to look your best today. Will you be needing help undressing? The question caught me off guard. I don't need help, but I'm gonna be polite about it. Who knows what's normal here? Thank you for the offer, but I am accustomed to dressing myself. Cupio nods, surprisingly accepting of my choice. Very well then. I will see what we have that will fit your body while you disrobe. Drape yourself in the plush blanket on the Davenport if you're feeling bare. Is that what this kind of furniture is called? I kind of want to know now. We are learning things today. Yeah, it's a sofa, right? And do not be concerned, we change them after each client that refuses to take it home with them. It's possible that the choices are building up a personality type thing. I don't know. Or possibly we're getting points. I don't know. Actually, what happens if I hit the journal button? Wait. I expected this to be a menu. Hello? This is a profile. Titles, age, height, description, initial impressions, lasting impressions. Huh. Yeah, there isn't anything beyond this. There's just the general. That's cool. That's not what I expected that button to be. Oh yeah, wait, there's a menu button here. There we go. That's just a basic menu. So okay, we don't have any knowledge of what these choices are doing. I mean, actually, for all I know, it could be coloring the impressions and things. Before I could process his words, the elf had made his way outside of my changing area. It didn't take long before several beautiful outfits were brought to me. Cupio made it his mission to look everywhere but at my body as he delivered them and exited. His regard for my wishes put me at ease as I tried on the outfits one by one. Do any of these suit your fancy? Okay, we have a racy blue and white draped dress with a beautiful belt made of pearls, a conservative black cotton toga that sticks to my curves/muscles, a leather two-piece, a blouse with matching pants accented with golden braces and rings, or a ceremonial red and white robe of silk with a black embroidered sash. For a fancy party at the embassy of a country whose main colour appears to be black. Sorry, appears to be red even. Red is the word that I was looking for. So I mean, I could go with the red and white robe. I'm torn between the robe and the toga. I think the robe. This looks like something one of the generals would wear back home when they held their conclaves. Fancy, formal, yet not overly conspicuous. The pretty embroidery of the dark sash seems to tell the myth of the sun mice, an ancient story of how the little man outsmarted the god of shadows. This outfit felt comforting and brought a smile to my lips. A great choice. The tailor appraises the way the item of clothing sits upon my frame. Is this outfit to your liking? Yes, actually, it sounds great. Lovely. Now please follow me to the lockbox. I nod and exit through the heavy curtains to join the small elf at the pay desk, not expecting the looming figure that pushed past the paravan across from mine. I find myself face to chest with a being unlike any I've ever seen before. A tall cross between man and monster, with a powerful body and a rich skin tone. As I look up at him, his eyes jump in surprise before his lips twist into a tameless smile. And I think I need to try and go as deep as I can for this guy, I think. Seems like I made the correct choice. Excuse me? Getting you dressed. His voice was like a low purr, and I find my cheeks heating as he made a show of admiring my outfit of choice. You're stunning. you? A large tail swishes back and forth behind him as he tilts his head to one side. Yeah, you see what I mean? You see what I mean, Nick? Did you also manage to find suitable clothing? What I am already wearing will suffice. My eyes wander over his Herculean body. Everything on this man, from his robust torso down to his powerful lion-like legs, seemed as if it should have been carved out of stone by a sculptor. I'd never seen anyone casually show this much skin outside of a bedroom in my life. Are you sure? I have faith. Did his eyes gleam, or did I imagine it? And I want to go deeper for this guy's voice, but apparently my throat doesn't want to do that today. Now then, let's go sort your bill out. Giving me little chance to respond, the creature moved to stand in front of the tailor. Wait, you do not need to pay for this for me, but thanks. Thank you, but that is unnecessary. I hurriedly stepped even closer to Cupio, who looked between me and the tall man now behind me, uncertainly. Do you always fight back this hard when someone tries helping you out? I know I've given him a weird look when his smile widens, showing off a pair of sharp-topped canines. Yes or no? Yes? An amused hum leaves his lips, and I find myself wondering what it is he gleaned from this curt line of questioning. This isn't a battle you need to fight. Your purchase is on me. Consider it a gift from the terror of the elves. I freeze in place as the tall creature crosses his arms in front of his chest, refusing to take no for an answer. His lion-like tail swishes back and forth as if taunting me to attempt to refuse his kindness. This man was the Terror, the demigod leader of the city of Feeds and the chosen of the earth element. See you, card. And he'd just paid for a ridiculously overpriced item of clothing. For me. Alright? The intensity of his gaze lessened before he nodded towards the clothing on my body. Pretty things suit pretty people. Consider it a party favor. You are a guest of the Dread Festival, right? I nod and he gives me a brilliant grin. Then please make yourself at home in our city. The words "a million people would kill for this chance" echo in my mind, and I find myself smiling back at the demigod. Thank you. It is my duty, and, incidentally, my pleasure. I find my cheeks heating a bit at his tone. I should be on my way. Of course. I'll be seeing you tonight, then. I pick up my old clothes and my pack before bidding Cupio and the Terror the most dignified goodbye I could muster. Now, what did the way back to the embassy look like? I start retracing my steps, but quickly find myself unable to deny the itch to put words on paper over my recent encounter. Compared to the capital of the Ares Empire, the elven city of Omnis is ridiculously expensive. No, we'll go with beautiful but chaotic. The architecture I see as I walk the streets is awe-inspiring, but the structure of the city itself is incomprehensible. I wonder what the spatial architects were thinking when they planned this place. The urban design is amateurish when compared to the organised construction of our capital city. My thoughts then wander to the terror of the elves, to his warm smiles and his overly accommodating sentiments. Nobody had ever covered a bill for me purely out of kindness. I can't help but wonder what the price I'd have to pay for it in return would be. I frown and structure my thoughts on the demigod of Earth. My first impression of the terror of the elves is that I think that's spatial as in the fact that they are architecting a space. That probably doesn't make sense. He seems to live in his own world, or he has a terrible savior complex. I don't know about a savior complex. Let's go with he seems to live in his own world. I've never once spotted any of our 9 generals out shopping for clothes mere hours before an event as important as the Dread Festival. Then again, if the terror is as rich as the legends say he is, I shouldn't be surprised that he throws money around at pompous stores with ridiculously inflated price tags. I feel my chest grow heavy with guilt over the words I put down. We've been taught to always show the strengths of our empire. Throwing mud at the reputations of others in order to do so, however, it's never been my favourite thing to do. I exhale and look up from my page and quill, needing a distraction from my treacherous thoughts. It comes quickly, as I do not recognise the street I'm walking on. Multitasking is not always as easy as it seems. The marble and quartz are lost, instead replaced by simple one-floor stone buildings, decorated with all kinds of dried plants, bones, and black velvet curtains. The streets seem deserted. The air feels oppressive. Unlike the other parts of town, soft lavender and green candles lay lit around the street, as though there is heavy darkness here that dims all other colours and needs to be warded off. Silence stretches over me in a way that has me glancing back at my shadow. I don't know why, but this place reminds me of some of the worst moments in my life. The passing of my late parents, a terrible breakup with an abusive ex, a near-death experience I suffered through, or the loss of a friend in the yearly wars. Okay. Let's go with the loss of a friend in the yearly wars. An experience that changed me, left a void in my chest. It is difficult to express what the loss of a loved one feels like, but a wave of sadness hits me with such strength that I have to rub the tears from my eyes as I walk. I hate it. I hate the reality of a mortal. That life has a beginning and an end. How cruel is that? How cruel were the gods that made us like this? I take a deep breath and focus on the teachings of the Ares Empire. The way to fight back the demons that attempt to conquer you. I need to keep myself occupied and focus on the things at hand. I need to take everything step by step. Turn back and try to retrace your steps. Well, we got lost while we weren't paying attention and we were writing things down, so I'm not sure how well that's going to go. Or, I think we need to find someone who lives here and knows where they're going. Look for someone to guide you back. Well, the street I'm currently on is empty. There surely must be someone I can ask for directions. I walk around for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, taking lefts and rights, making my way through neighbourhoods that look lived in, yet don't spot a single person. Haven't I already been on this street? I feel as though I'm being watched. I find myself constantly glancing around at the vacant windows and empty street corners. A cold chill climbs up my back as I reach a few doors without windows or candles. Was this elven magic or all just in my head? Was someone playing tricks on me? When I stop to readjust my pack, I feel something wet hit my forehead. The darkening skies up above surprise me. I have barely a moment to blink before I'm caught in a downpour. Well, so much for those new clothes, I guess. The rain is so heavy and cold that if I don't hide somewhere quick, I'm sure I'll be sick during tonight's banquet. Shit. At this rate, my notes will be ruined. I break into a run, looking for shelter from the downpour. The only place I manage to find on such short notice is underneath a small staircase. I'm forced to squeeze in underneath, pulling my feet into my chest. Yeah, at least the new clothes can dry out. And yeah, it'll be easier for them just to dry out than for us to get the ink out of what we were wearing before. Thing is, I like rain, but I hate getting wet. So we're gonna go with I hate the rain. I'd always found it depressing, preferring baking in the sunlight for hours instead. With a downpour like this, it seemed as though the sky itself was crying. For the first time in my life, I found the sky's unruliness almost unfair. By force of habit, I find myself closing my eyes and listening to the sound of raindrops as they hit the cement. Yeah, listening to and looking at rain, good. Being out in the rain and getting soaked, bad. The damper I am, the worse my mood is. I breathe in the petrichor and allow its familiar smell to calm me. Despite my feelings, I find my earlier unease evaporating, melting away with the minutes. Ooh, a dog! I open my eyes to the sound of a bark and find a small puppy tilting its head at me. When I blink again, however, I find that I must have imagined it. What stands before me instead is a tall man dressed head to toe in black. His 4 eyes are a startling green, greener than the purest jadeite. Somehow, he sticks out from within the gloom of the surrounding environment, perhaps because of the lit white candle that gleams in the lantern he holds up towards me. He surveys me silently, unbothered by the rain falling from the sky. His gaze lingers a beat too long on my ears. A sound like an exasperated scoff escapes him before he moves his cape to one side. It takes me a moment to realise he is offering to share. Ooh, look at the feathers on that cape. Come on. No, so come on. There we go. I'm not sure how I managed to hear a voice so gentle above the downpour. Let's get you out of this rain. I should refuse. Something about strangers and danger. However, this man and his calm, gentle presence reassured me of my safety in a way no one else ever had. Perhaps it was magic? And did it truly matter if I was bespelled, if I managed to get to the banquet in time? With a nod, I moved quickly from neath the stone staircase to under the unfamiliar man's cape. I'm pleased to find it is much warmer and larger than it looks. I assume you are an ambassador of the Ares Empire? Once again, I am surprised I can hear him. Something of the sort. His gaze lingers on me for a moment too long. Though he says nothing, he reaches his lantern forward, and I gather that we should move. The streets are accumulating water at such a pace that the sewage system does not seem capable of handling it. At first, I do my best to avoid the gathering puddles and streams of water, carrying away dust and grime. Yeah, I think everyone knows where we're from because we're not an elf and this is a city of elves. Though the task is difficult, my feet should be soaked through the shoes and socks. I'm surprised to find that I don't walk into the puddles. I walk over them, as though an invisible barrier has created between myself and the cold water accumulating on the streets. Man, I wish I had that skill. The ability not to end up with soaking wet socks. Please. When I glance back at the man leading me, I notice the way the rain bounces away from him. I want to know how he's doing it. Ask him how he's keeping you both dry. The cloak's enchanted. Oh. Man, I want that cloak. It looks cool and it keeps you dry. I'd never experienced the effect of a magic item before, and I can't help but be a little awestruck at the revelation I was almost wearing one. They were pretty rare back in the Ares Empire. He tilted his head toward the sky as if attempting to gauge if it will cease raining soon. Then sighs. I apologize. Once again, it takes me a moment to catch his voice. I find how easy it is to miss alarming. Are you apologizing for the rain? Yes. It appears Aqua chose the opportune time to throw a tantrum. I feel the cogs clicking away in my head. And does it rain just in Omnis, or all around Queen Angular when he's in a bad mood? That's entirely up to him. Do all elven aspects have the ability to affect the weather? I can feel his gaze resting on me for a brief moment. For a brief period. No. Oh. At least not without the help of spell candles. I raise an eyebrow at the man as he guides us into a turn that leads us out of the basic rocky building district. What are spell candles? A few seconds pass by without an answer, and I wonder if the cloak almost seems to grow heavier around me. A way to preserve the pure elemental magic. And the magic is released when the candle is burned? Correct. Yeah, is that why there's candles everywhere? Yeah, is that why candles are strewn about this entire city? I spot the smallest of twitches at the corner of his mouth. Aren't you quite the astute student? I find myself smiling back at him. Our kind light them whenever they require magic that they do not naturally possess. The red candles to light the fires at home and warm a room. The blue candles to summon and control water. The effect to which anyone can use these candles depends on their magical ability, of course, but I think you get the gist of it. The curve of his lips softened his features, and for a split second, I find myself staring longer than is appropriate. Can I also use magic? And that's an interesting question. Or how do the aspects impose control upon candles, then? I'm intrigued. Do you need to have inherent magic at all to use these, or can you use them but not very well if you don't? Can I also use magic, then? Do you have an affinity for any element or deity? No. Then you likely can only benefit from enchanted items. Flying carpets, rings that part the sea, talking swords, the stuff of legends. He's teasing me. Very funny. Here we are. The male stopped suddenly and turned towards me, his tall frame towering over me as he lifted his lantern toward the entrance to the Arisian embassy. Loud percussion, the whistle of a flute, and a mandolin rang through the air, showing off the festivities had begun. And I was late. I'm embarrassed to admit I was so focused on the intriguing man before me to notice we'd arrived. Thank you. No thank you necessary, be assured. He motioned for me to go ahead with his free hand, so I just nodded, turned on my heel, and walked into the embassy in a hurry. The music was much louder inside, accompanied by the smells of various sizzling meats and the bright light of hanging chandeliers. Water, earth, and death elves moved around in wild circular dances, dressed in such finery that I found myself thankful that the Terror had interfered in my behalf at the store earlier. Though I spot him in the room, I find that he's engaged in conversation with some senators from our empire, full goblet in hand. A few paces away from him, my eyes meet the infamous crimson hues of the general, who seems to have stopped whatever he was doing to size up my outfit. Irritation bubbles up in my throat, and I find myself quickly pivoting towards the drinks table. A large wine fountain, adorned with lit silver candles, quickly catches my eye, and a polite elf pours me a goblet upon noticing my approach. I take the cup with a smile, but am momentarily distracted from drinking. I hear a series of loud gasps echoed from somewhere before a slick, tangible voice cuts through the music like a hot knife through butter. I told the pirate lord that if he's not willing to go to war for my love, he doesn't deserve me. And then I sank his ship to the bottom of the bay. A series of excited whispers and murmurs follow the ridiculous explanation, carrying the electric atmosphere that supports all forms of gossip-mongering. Momentarily distracted, I can't help but search for whoever is the source of this ambience. Frankly, even if my sister and brother were on the marriage market, I doubt they'd be able to impress. Sorry, I know that's me. Frankly, even if my sister and brother were on the marriage market, I doubt they'd be able to impress. Then again, feel free to bring it up with stepmother dearest. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to finally get a morsel of attention. My feet move automatically as if charmed by scandal carried within every sentence of whoever is speaking. I find I am led to a section of the embassy floor transformed into a lounge by large chaises, silk curtains, and burning incense. Many gorgeous elves are piled on top of comfortable pillows, lazing around in eye-catching outfits. Yet when my eyes land on the male sprawled in the dead center of this crowd, I find myself suddenly flustered. Everything about this man makes me want to do double and triple takes. The long hair glistening in the candlelight as if wet, the bright pink makeup, the outfit that I'm sure would look unseemly on anyone else in such a formal environment. Whoever he is, he commands the space behind these curtains as though he owns it. And he might as well, considering the way the hungry gazes of his entourage follow each breath he takes. No, sweetheart, no matter how much money your father offers her family as a dowry, trust me, she won't marry you. He sounds so utterly bored with the topic, I almost believe he isn't reveling in the attention he's receiving. His large smile says otherwise. Everyone knows that marrying for love is far superior than marrying for money. His gaze landed on me and his smile widened. Wouldn't you agree? The pool of attention was dropped upon me so suddenly that I found myself desperate to get rid of it. Okay, we have marriage for money is better, marriage for love is better. I don't believe in marriage. I'd rather not give opinions on other people's relationships, or... Can't people have both? I mean, honestly, I would rather not give opinions on other people's relationships. Now I see why no one batted an eyelash when they noticed you arriving late. You're boring. Oof. I blink, suddenly annoyed at his quick dismissal of my character. It's almost unfortunate. His heterochromatic eyes slide over my form. The retort I'd planned never leaves my mouth. You're just my type. Excuse me? His bold proclamation wipes the remark clean from memory, and I can only stare at him, completely dumbfounded. My cheeks flush as he spreads 2 fingers in front of his lips. Feel free to stop by my room later. I highly doubt that would be appropriate. Aqua of the Elves. My embarrassment is quickly swept under the rug, the attention of the room instead drawn to the general who'd moved in front of me. His demeanor remains cold as always. So, this is the one who made it rain, huh? Ah, the Shadow Master. The beautiful man before me finally moves to stand in front of us. I'd had an inkling the male before me had to be influential, but had I just been propositioned by the aspect of water? My brain blanched as I pondered how to put that down in my journal. I've heard a lot about you. The Aqua did a quick circle around the general, eyeing him with unabashed curiosity. The man without a heart, was it? Care to dispel that rumour? Ignoring the bold flirtation of the demigod before him, the general's crimson eyes glance in my direction briefly. I ask that you refrain from distracting our Balefire-mandated political journalist from doing her job. I find myself stiffening upon hearing the mention of the Ares Empire's grand capital. Equa's attention slid over me again, lingering on the authorized notebook I was given to put my notes down. I make no promises. You... It's a festival, General. Relax. He waved an amphibious hand dismissively. In fact... He raised his voice in a way that carried his words around the room. I propose a toast. Another goblet of wine is pushed into my hand by a servant so quickly that I suspect the Aqua of the Elves has a habit of making toasts. Though the room is buzzing with excitement, it is quiet enough to hear a pin drop. Beside me, I notice the General giving Aqua a withering gaze. What happened to the first goblet? I assume we finished it. Then again, have we had the chance to do that? Maybe everyone just gets a second goblet to do the toast with. To the Ares Empire, who have stood behind us thousands of winters. He raised his silver goblet in the air. May our festival once again nourish the millennium-old alliance between our two nations, so that we may stand together against the coming horrors anew in 8 months. Prost! I blink as the word is echoed around the room and everyone erupts in cheers before drinking from their cups. I mean, we should actually drink. I take a sip of the wine and am thrown off by the dry, slightly salty taste it carries. I glance around the room to see if anyone shared my reaction, but it seems I'm alone in my confusion. The festivities around me have resumed in full force, with the swell of the flute leading most elves that were gathered around Aqua into an unfamiliar folk dance. They bounce around the room in couples, laughing and dragging the occasional senator into their steps. It's wild and lively, antithetical to the structured festivals we hold back at Balefire. Okay, this is a different person, so who knows? It's an acquired taste. The wine, I mean. Surf grape, they call it in a more... Oh, no. Okay, we needed to go deeper on that. Surf grape, they call it in a more... A familiar voice comes from behind, and as I turn, I come face to face with the giant frame of the elf's terror. Long time no see, princess. It's good to see you as well, Terra. Planning to take Aqua up on his offer? It takes me a second to clue into what he's asking. It seems word travels faster than wine at the Elven capital. I will be doing my job. Thought so. A part of me wanted to ask him what he meant, considering that smile, but I find my attention occupied by Aqua. He led a complex folk dance with easy confidence, his long hair swaying behind him, a mesmerising head of the revelry. Our stoic general followed through the motions beside him, as though he'd done this many times before. He looks like he'd have more fun cleaning bird shit. I stifle a laugh behind a hand and glance up at the shrugging demigod. Am I wrong, though? You're probably right. I can't help the smile that cracks my well-structured mask of professionalism. I don't have to do anything more to earn myself a pleased expression from the elven demigod. His gaze shifts behind me, and I follow it to a lone figure leaning up against a wall beside the embassy's entrance. Ah! Oh! This one's got ears too! Well, everyone's got ears, but... My guide from earlier. With his hood down, I'm startled to see a pair of long lupine ears shifting on top of his head. Mors Mortis, the aspect of death. The last demigod of the waking elves. He's watching the dance unfolding around the embassy floor, but seems to be restraining himself from joining it. Terran nudges me with his elbow. You could invite him to a dance, you know. I'm startled by the suggestion. You know the steps, don't you? I nod, slowly. I wouldn't be allowed on this job if I didn't. Well, what are you waiting for? Ah, to go literally dance for the deaf, huh? I blink at Terra's words, suddenly feeling encouraged to try something new. This could be a great feature to put into the journalistic piece after I get home. Okay. Who do we want to dance with? Mors Mortis is the guy with the enchanted cloak that we just got told the name of. And I'm torn between him and Terra. For the sake of the fact that my voice doesn't want to go as deep as I want for Terra, I think we'll, I think we will go literally dance with death. My eyes shift back to the demigod of death who stands near the front entrance of the embassy's hall, cup of wine in hand. He strays from the rest, enjoying his bubble of serene solitude as he instead observes the descending chaos, content to be exempt from it. Emboldened by the Terra's words, I politely excuse myself from my time with the leader of the Elven faith, and move to join Mors Mortis in his reclusive corner. His gaze shifts to me briefly, noting my approach, before returning to the wild dances happening around us. Shouting, hopping, twirling, jumping, kissing, touching, drinking. The Aqua has grabbed our general, leading him through the complicated steps of a local dance that he's keeping up with perfectly. The visible vexation on his face, however, makes me consider the existence of karma. I can't help but smile as I reach the demigod of death and lean on the wall beside him. You're not joining them? His eyes flit to me and then back to the craze up ahead. Dancing is not something I've ever had much of a talent for. And yet you enjoy watching it? It is a verification of being alive, beautiful in its simplicity and simultaneously in its complexity. I tilt my head and turn my attention fully to the scene before me as it unfolds. The Mors Mortis of the elves was the oldest of the elven aspects, a frightening monster with sharp teeth and claws capable of plucking a person's soul right from their chest. He was perhaps the most feared ally we had, a folktale the parents told their kids when they didn't want to go to bed, the sleepless wolven demigod who ate the naughty children when they wandered into the dark forests at night. These men and women, politicians, are like the stars. They burn beautifully when they're far away. Interesting to observe, but not to encounter. His plain observation surprises me, and though I lack the courage to verbally or visibly agree with him, in a room where doing either would be treason, I feel that my silence tells him enough. The beat of the music continues and the cello swells with emotion as I watch the terror join into the dance, leading a long winding column of his own with a smile on his face. He's like the sun, a stark contrast to the schooled displeasure of our general and the mischievous expression of the Aqua. What about you? Why aren't you joining them? Let's just go with I wanted to thank you for earlier. Actually, I wanted to thank you for earlier. Thank me? Saving me from the rain when I got lost? It was kind of you. Anyone else would have done the same. I can list the names of quite a few people who wouldn't, several of them drinking merrily in this room, but I resist. Instead, I simply shake my head. One person's kindness can be a second chance at life for another. Doing the right thing shouldn't be as complex as it's made out to be. You would have caught a cold if I let you remain in the freezing rain. The decision was simple. Well, thank you nonetheless. He paused before giving me a small, stiff nod. A sudden surge of the beat turned my eyes to the centre of the embassy's main hall, where the aspects of earth and water had clashed, both vying for the centre of the dance floor. The general, whose fingers were still intertwined with Aqua's, regarded the aspect of water as though he were seconds from killing him. The stomping of feet, clinking of cups, roaming of hands, the smell of expensive perfumes met with that of sizzling meats, cooked traditionally as kebab. At the same time, it reminded me of home, while also letting me experience something entirely different. It made me want to close my eyes, lean into the beat like everyone else. As the chaos of the festivities raged around me, and I turned once more to face Mors Mortis. A question on my lips, I watched as his eyes widened and he pulled me to his side without warning as a stray glass of wine smashed into the wall where I'd just stood. Its owner, an earthen elf with sandy skin tone, laughed drunkenly, perhaps after doing a few twirls too many in the current dance. Her eyes, the colour of bright amethysts, turned to me, and what I assumed was going to be an apology turned into wide eyes, quivering lips, and a deep bow. She said something in Elvish, then turned on her heels and ran out of the embassy's open doors into the night, leaving me dumbfounded. Ah, yes. I imagine that the realization that she almost hit the aspect of death with her wine glass was probably terrifying. At least she was considerate enough not to disturb the rest of the guests by screaming. She said she apologizes for the glass. I turned to Mors Mortis, whose nonchalant tone was betrayed by the scowl on his lips. thank you? It is of no consequence. A series of merry cheers erupts from the centre of the hall, the long song having come to an end, but I find myself uninterested in the winner of its superstitious competition. The man before me holds my gaze instead. I'm fascinated by what someone so seemingly gentle had done in seconds to summon forth such primal fear from his subject. But if Mors Mortis senses the millions of questions on my tongue, he ignores them, instead reaching toward me and tugging something out of my hair, which I'm going to guess is a shard of glass. His dark fingers pull away, and I catch a sick thigh tattooed on the back of his hand. A bit of glass got on you. He shows me a small shard between his fingers. Something that wouldn't have happened had our balefire-mandated journalist been doing their job recording the happenings rather than partaking in them. The General cuts into the conversation with a glare in my direction that gives me goosebumps. I believe you and I have different definitions of the term partaking, General. Unlike me, Mors Mortis seems completely unaffected by the Shadow Master's presence. Your journalist was in fact doing their job very well. It is the fault of our people that she almost got injured. The General scoffed, his gaze shifting to me again, his eyes tracking what I could only assume were the glass shards in my hair. Any journalist serious about their job would already be resting. The aspect of Death's gaze shifts to me, as if to gauge something, before he places a hand on his toned chest. His head dipped into a curt bow, a soft smile on his lips. Then may your rest be tranquil, and your spirit feel serene under Nosh's watchful gaze, Kalla. Thank you, Natura. As he rises, I offer both men a small, bright smile. If you'll excuse me. The General gives me a curt, dismissive nod. Mors Mortis, on the other hand, seems to be looking past me. I take it as permission to leave. It is halfway out of the room that I realise I never actually had the chance to tell the aspect of death my name. Maybe that's just something he knows. I quickly reach my room. The inside is small but luxuriously furnished, showing off what I already knew, that the Ares Empire spared no expense for its diplomats. I find myself glaring at the unnecessary mahogany desk, the silk robe hanging from my dresses, the comfortable bed warmed by the red candle lit beside it. Yeah, the lighting's really nice. Like this is with the moonlight coming in through the window. And the warmer lights of the candles over by the bed. The redundant opulence of the ensuite bathroom with the heated floors and scented soaps. I sigh as I sink into my bed, journal in hand. Pushing my annoyance aside, my thoughts drift, taking me through the day. So far, I find Omnis to be mysterious, grandiose, charming, or intimidating. Grandiose? Before I know it, I'm describing the giant marble pillars and colourful quartz rooftops of the city's buildings. The perfectly coiffed shrubbery, the strong scent of roses, the gorgeous crawling plants that must have taken decades to reach the heights they currently hold. I smile as I recall the soft hanging silk curtains bathed in the golden light of dusk. Next, I find myself focusing on the welcome festivities I'd just been part of. They were highly political, ridiculously chaotic, terribly exciting, or quite a special experience. This feels like a very polite way of putting things. Quite the special experience, I think. The winters our eastern continent experiences are mere myths to the rest of the known world. They are harsh, filled with horrors of mind and body. We lose too many good people to these wars every year. And yet within the Arisian embassy of Omnis, the evening before the dread festival, we are welcomed with open arms by our elven comrades in arms. We find hope in breaking bread and sharing wine. We smile, laugh, and choose to live on, persist despite the admonitions of our recent memories. It was a heartwarming sight of an alliance forged over millennia of joint suffering. I find myself smiling when I think of, well, I think we're going in the direction of Mors Mortis, so let's go there. The calm and wise Mors Mortis is the oldest waking elven aspect. As the demigod of death and the ruler of Spes' city of hope, he is a walking oxymoron, both renowned and feared within his own kind's capital city. He is the monster our parents told us about when we were young, the big bad wolf that ate the naughty kids. He who never sleeps and can pluck souls from bodies with a simple touch. There is, however, a certain unexpected peace one can find when being near what they fear most. You can find out the boogeyman is just a man. Perhaps the weeks of travel were finally getting to me. I put away my journal and try to get some rest. To survive in the Ares Empire, you need to love it. Or you need to be very good at pretending to do so. The delegation was ready to depart to the Central Plaza at 7:30 AM sharp. Systemized like apothecary bottles, not a single soul dared to be late under the general's scrutiny. As if yesterday's chaotic revelry was a dream we'd all conjured up in our sleep. But the outfit on my body was proof enough, considering I had nothing else decent to wear. The elven diplomats meant to escort us to the location of the Dread Festival's opening ceremony arrived at exactly 7:35. The Shadow Master greeted them, and after finishing the steaming contents of his cup, bid they lead the way. Yeah, maybe it's not so much that we only brought one set of clothes, than that we only brought one set of respectable clothes for fancy occasions. I'm not sure. Or that most of our clothes are dirty from weeks on the road, perhaps, I don't know. I soon found myself uncertain as to why all of this posturing was necessary. The Central Plaza of Omnis is exactly a 3-minute walk away from the embassy. Though we are early to the ceremony, the open space is packed with elves of various elemental inclinations and ages. 7 large stone coffins, held together with heavy locks and star mail chains, lay arranged in a neat line at the heart of the square. A giant cauldron of bubbling wax levitates peacefully above each one, and I quickly spot the 7 lit silver candles held together by Mors Mortis. Though Terra and Aqua are nowhere to be found, the aspect of death seems to personally be attending to the festival's preparation. He appears calm as he runs his fingers over the flames of the braziers heating the cauldrons, earning excited whispers from the gathered elves and senators. I find myself wondering if it hurts, or if he's touched fire so many times he's grown numb to it. For a second, his eyes meet mine across the field as our delegation steps forward to our designated area. He's gonna get a smile. Surprise skips over his features like a pebble before sinking underneath the perfectly constructed political smile he'd offer our delegation. Or so I expected. Instead, his expression remains the same, as he offers us a cool, calculated bow. Welcome, esteemed General and delegates of the Ares Empire, to this year's Dread Festival opening. Thank you, Aspect of Death, for hosting us again this year. The Shadow Master returns the sentiment with a curt bow of his own. What a lukewarm exchange. I'm not certain exactly what has happened between these two, but I do not have any time to dwell on it, for Aqua and Terra's arrival breaks the tension and turns it into chaos. It is as if wherever those two appear, the location turns into a stage set for a spectacle. A stark contrast to the elves' indifference towards Mors Mortis and quiet curiosity about the general. I find my gaze lingering on. We're gonna stick to Mors here. The Aspect of Death stood motionless beside our delegation as he waited for his compatriots to join us. His side profile reminded me of a statue, his lithe form carved from decades of decisions. Only his eyes gave away signs of life. His gaze shifted through the crowd, landing on his fellow aspects, before he blinked, an action so natural that it looked foreign on him, as though he did it for the benefit of the living around him. Esteemed guests of the Empire, allow us to once again welcome you to our lands as we commemorate the end of another winter. Terra moved to stand beside the now quiet Mors Mortis. There is no greater honor for us and our people to call you and yours by the term allies. For every time we've called, you have answered, and whenever you have been in need, we've delivered. It is through good that we stave off evil, through your gods and ours. Listening to the eloquence of the Aspect of Earth, I am quickly reminded that as the leader of the Elven City of Faith, Terra also holds the title of Head of all Elfic religions. Aqua speaks next, a hand on his heart. Our bond has lasted for millennia, a marriage against the darkness. This commitment, immortalized when we sealed away the 7 scions, will continue to hold again today. On this first dawn of the Dread Festival, we vow to once again keep them at bay. His voice pulls me towards him like a sailor to a siren, but it is Mors Mortis's tone that brings me back, that makes me stop and listen. From flesh to wax, from wax to life. Every year, the eternal war takes from us those who we hold dear. And with what is left of them, we seal away chaos, anger, harm, loneliness, sorrow, hunger, and plague, and take a breath until next winter. For it is through faith that we hold the lines. Through love that we stand united. And through hope that we keep fighting. Let those we love shield us once more from the dangers we've forgotten. Breathe in and take your time to pray. Terra's command echoes through the air, rendering the thousands of elves gathered on their knees. As per the ritual, our delegation is the first to walk up to the braziers of bubbling wax and silently thank those who gave their lives for ours. The general goes first, murmuring thank yous in both our language and that of the elves. Though I can't see his face, I find his tone to be gentler than any I'd heard from him before. I go last from our delegation. I think about those I've lost over the years to this war, or I murmur thank yous in both languages. Can't I do both? Yeah, I think, let's think. A deep pain grips me. I know it stems from the emptiness of what was once, but is now no more. As I reach the first cauldron, I thank the people and elves who gave their lives for our peace in both languages. Then I move to the next cauldron and do the same, and the next, and the next, and the next. It is considered a great honour to be able to come this close to the dead again. Once our delegation has finished paying our respects, the elven aspects follow. The three move in perfect tandem, and by the time Mors Mortis is finished, the rest of the elven population in Omnis is already in silent tears. Poor. Mors Mortis orders after a moment of silence. The 7 cauldrons obey Mors Mortis's command, slowly moving to tip over. Wax begins hitting the coffins one by one, resealing them under the watchful eyes of the elven aspects, their people, and our delegation. Get down! The words shatter through the silence. I barely have time to process the familiar voice before the ground underneath my feet gives. For a second, I think I'm blind. The world has turned pitch black. I think I smell something burning. Then daylight breaks through, bringing back my sense of sight. My knees are bleeding. I blink as I try to get my bearings, but it is as though sound has ceased to function. I make out that some of the senators lay beside me, cowering. I think I would like to stay low until I figured out what's going on. The general is kneeling beside me, a knife in his hand. His eyes wander around our delegation, coolly checking for everyone's presence and safety. At least until a shout cuts apart my uncertainty with a new horrifying discovery. The goddess of chaos has escaped! The eyes shoot in the direction of the pale marble coffin, the last one to be sealed, now empty. I hear murmurs and whispers from the gathered elven crowds. The words are undecipherable until the general's crimson gaze sweeps up towards the onlookers with what can only be described as wild fury. They finally decided to conquer us too! Betrayers! Scoundrels! My blood chills as I realise the only possible culprits could be those close enough to the cauldrons. The realisation seems to dawn upon the aspects at the same time, because all 3 of them turn to face us. The words "seize them" suddenly sound like a phrase from a banned horror novel. The elven crowds are dispersed and told to return to their homes under curfew. Meanwhile, we are roughly pulled to a standing position in front of the aspects. While Terra and Aqua's expressions are unreadable, Mors Mortis looks dangerously calm. General, give us one reason why we mustn't lynch your delegation and send you back to the Emperor to announce the dissolution of our alliance. You have no proof. I find this man's ability to remain an egotistical bastard even when standing before 3 demigods almost attractive. Almost. Did nobody else stand close enough to the braziers in order to tamper with them? The general falls silent, and I realize exactly what he's saying. I see Mors Mortis's expression turn murderous as he reaches the same conclusion. My thoughts suddenly dim as a primal existential fear of death sinks its claws into my back. How dare! Let's hold an investigation then. Aqua's smile is nonchalant, but something in his tone gives me pause. Mors Mortis's eyes narrow on the demigod of water. Everyone present is a suspect. I don't know why the 3 unitary demigods suddenly look so divided. Terra, much to my surprise, is frowning, his tail flicking around, his arms crossed in front of his chest. Very well. Mors Mortis's 4 jade eyes wander between the members of our delegation and the surrounding guards before landing on the general. Name your investigator, Shadow Master. You get 1, and only 1. Kalla. Well, good choice for an investigator. What? I jumped to my feet as all eyes turned to me. I mean, I'll do it. A little bit of detective work, let's go. I catch a glimmer in Terra's gaze as none of the aspects argue the general's choice. Aqua's smile widens and I find myself looking away, needing to escape all of this attention. The festival lasts 7 days. This is how long you have to get your truth. The unspoken "if you fail" remains a silent implication that hangs over my head like a guillotine for the next week. Day 1. I return to my room and find that my fingers are gripping my journal so hard that they're shaking. I have to get it together, desperately. I can sense how overwhelmed I am with fear. Had it been winter, I likely would have already turned into some mindless ghoul and fallen prey to the sword of a soldier. I take in a deep breath, then exhale. I repeat these simple motions several times, until my brain has enough oxygen to function again as it should. It's a Friday, not a Sunday, but there's always time to do detective work. Right? That's true. Who do I investigate? Okay. Who do I investigate? I mean, it's probably a good idea to double check it's not my general. That feels important. Your summons for the general go unanswered. He appears to be busy. Okay, not him then. Can we go hang out with Mors Mortis again then? My head feels like it's swimming as I attempt to piece everything together. Nothing makes sense. There is still too much information I lack and too little time I have to figure this out. I feel restless, the squeezing of my stomach from nerves doubled by the rapidly growing hunger for something more serious than a cup of tea. It forces me out of my chair and to the door. With the amount of stress I'm under, if I don't eat anything, I might fall sick, and then I'd really have doomed us all. A light meal would have to suffice. Pulling the door open, I find myself staring back at 2 pairs of surprised green eyes. The aspect of death, one dark hand pulled into a knuckle, seemed to have just been about to knock. Instead, he clears his throat and hides his hand back under his long cloak. I've come at a bad time. He steps back, serene, entirely different from the previous burning display of anger at the city square. It's all right, Natura. I was about to step out for lunch. I see. Then I won't keep you with my presence. That won't work for me. I desperately need answers. Would you like to join me for lunch? Actually, if it isn't entirely too bold of an invitation, considering the difference in our stations, you could join me? This way we won't waste time. 4 green eyes blink at me and then scan me from top to bottom with distrust. For lunch. Whatever he sees in my following little nod seems to melt away his suspicions, replacing them with curiosity instead. He motions for me to walk ahead, and I do just that, a polite silence blanketing the space between us as we make our way to the embassy's canteen. It is a small but well-decorated place with 3 rotating tables covered in banquet-style dishes for self-service. 1 tall window allows for daylight to enter and envelop the whole room. When I move to sit into one of the comfortable wooden chairs, Mors Mortis is quick to pull it out from behind me, surprising me as he pushes it underneath me after. Ooh, pulled out my chair for me. How nice. Would you be comfortable with having me sit beside you, or would you prefer to have me seated across? The question puzzles me, and I catch Mors Mortis once again scanning my face, searching for who knows what as I shrug. Sit wherever, Natura. We are in your city. And in your embassy, investigator. Do not forget that. I blink as he takes a seat beside me and lowers his hood. The eyes on his cheekbones scan through the dishes on display. Ask away. So I do just that. Did you notice anything unusual happening in the hours before the incident? Hours is a very broad amount of time. But yes, many things caught my attention. For one, my invisibility cloak has disappeared. Ah, well, shit. If there's a missing invisibility cloak, that means that kind of anyone could have done that, right? The joke is on my tongue, but I resist interrupting, stamping it down like any other intrusive thought. I couldn't complete my afternoon patrol yesterday because I was saving a soul in distress from sudden rain. Whoops! I can feel his eyes linger pointedly on me as I write that down. And the dead, their immortal souls were restless. He frowns, his ears twitching. Even still, their bones seek to leave their graves through their flesh. Even still, their bones seek to leave their graves, though their flesh has been cleaved and turned into wax. How can you tell? I can see them, hear them, feel them, talk to them. His gaze shifts briefly to something above my shoulder, and I follow his gaze, but spot nothing. A sigh escapes him, before his gaze turns to the table and food before me, but I'm not sure I have the stomach for anything after that conversation. I must, however, persevere. When did your invisibility cloak disappear? Yesterday, after I left my house. What time was that around? I tend to lose track of time. It was still dark outside, so it was in the early hours of morn. Somewhere around 5 a.m, based on Nosh's path through the sky. And when did you return to find it missing? 10 p.m, a quarter hour before that, perhaps. Wow, that's a long day. That's a large gap of time. I know where I placed it when we returned from winter, and it isn't there. Where do you usually place it? On the hanger beside the antidote rack. You can stop by when you have time and I'll show you what I mean. You want me to stop by your house? I'm a sheep in wolf's clothing investigator. My compatriots will confirm if you only ask them. You can bring someone with you if you're not comfortable, of course. I nod slowly, noting the opportunity in my journal. Was the ritual tampered with? Yes. How? Mors Mortis's eyes fall on the empty plate in front of me. There were runic configurations on the inside of the cauldron. I blink in surprise. Runes are ancient symbols imbued with magic, most commonly used for spellcasting. But runic is a dead language. Is anything truly dead if memory of it still lingers? Yeah, good point. The aspect of death rotates the traditional table, such that the vegetable dishes face us rather than the meat-centric ones. Either this man is vegetarian, or he has astounding insight into those around him. I thank him and quickly pile some pickled vegetables onto my plate, pondering his last words. When I look back at him, I notice that his ears have sharpened and his bustling tail is frozen in place, as if he is listening for something I can't hear. Ah! Confirmed he's got a wolf tail to go with those wolf ears. This is important information. For me. Fluffy tail. The eyes on his cheekbones have shifted their attention elsewhere. His features soften after a split second and he turns his full focus back on me. Do you know what purpose the runes served? Very few can read this language. Some of the runic shapes used are foreign, even to me. I frowned at this information. Despite the youth of his current appearance, Mors Mortis was the eldest of the aspects. Imperial records placed his age somewhere in the late 400s. My death speakers have already begun raising the spirits of the ancient dead to see if we can earn that knowledge. I'll let you know what we find, but this will take time. A sudden urge to snap at him rises within me. He's given me a week to solve this, but he's the one that needs time? I count to 10, stealing my nerves once more. how long do you imagine it will take to find this knowledge? By tree gifting at the latest. I grit my teeth. It was going to take him 3 days? I see. I'll ponder the implications of that later. Who do you think is responsible for the incident? The aspect of Death's expression turns unreadable. His eyes flicker away. A shadow falls across his face, and I know that he's thought on this already. For some reason, however, he refuses to share. Yeah, at least I'm getting the information like halfway through my allotted time and not at the very end. That's true. His silence lasts long enough that I'm inclined to write down "refuses to respond" in my journal. I pick up my chopsticks and take a quick couple of bites of the pickled carrots as I consider how to follow up on the lack of reply. Should I assume by your silence you know who is to blame? Do the spirits know who is behind the freed goddess, or are you the one responsible? The middle one. Let's go with the middle one. They are restless. They speculate, just like us. The voices have been so many, it is not only difficult to tune them out, but also impossible to make out anything any of them are saying, unless I implicitly concentrate. I need more time to speak with the city's roaming spirits, but when I have an answer, I will let you know. I should leave you to the pleasures within the plates. I barely had a moment to blink as the aspect of Death rose from his chair and put his hood back on. His cloak carried behind him a scent of fallen autumn leaves and burning candles. He hadn't had a bite or a sip as he made his way to the door. His eyes flickered once again to me and then behind me. Something of a smile crossed his lips. Are we haunted? I think we're haunted. Remember, be a rat, not a lamb. The less meat on the bones, the less satisfying the prey. He closes the door behind him with a soft click, and again, I can't tell if he's trying to piss me off or is genuinely attempting to be helpful. Who should I investigate? I'm going to make that decision after I get myself more water. I will be right back. And I'm back. Let's go for terror next, I think. I tap my pen against the desk as I try to structure a plan. I'm a political journalist, not a detective. I should be reporting on the strong relationship between the Ares Empire and Quillangular. I should be watching the general gallivanting alongside the aspects, drinking wine, smiling politely, and just writing. Instead, I somehow find myself spearheading an investigation that could not only spark a war between two nations, but also result in the end of my life. I can feel the nerves in my stomach like worms, eating me from the inside out. I should have skipped breakfast, and at this rate, I might skip dinner. So I guess this one's going to be Tara then. You alright? You look like you want to murder your journal. Which I do not recommend, by the way. It looks like a nice journal. I find myself torn from my thoughts by a voice I'm quickly growing acquainted with. Its owner leans against the open doorway, strong arms crossed in front of his chest. I knocked several times, but you didn't respond, so I let myself in. It took me a moment to realize he was waiting for me to respond to his earlier inquiry. I'm fine. Definitely fine. He hums, his eyes studying me briefly. His gaze was piercing, as though he could see through every little lie. Please, feel free to take a seat. I motioned to the chair in front of my desk and watched Tara's gaze flick briefly to it before moving back to me with a raised eyebrow. I don't mean to be disrespectful to your embassy's choice of furniture in saying this, but if I were to put my full weight onto that seat, I fear it wouldn't hold another person ever again. That is a long way of saying that chair is way too flimsy. And while I have no issue paying for those damages, I think I'd rather spare your ambassadors the embarrassment. A giggle escapes me as I process his words. Imagining the present ambassadors rushing over to apologize to the elves' terror for their inadequate seating arrangements sounded like something of a local comedy skit. Alright then. On to the topic at hand. Well, we're going to work our way down these questions again. Did you notice anything unusual in the hours before the incident? No, I was preoccupied. Any particular reason? He chuckles, and the sound inexplicably takes a load off my shoulders. Some demigod enchantment, perhaps? I was releasing some pent-up energy. Through exercise? With Aqua. It takes great efforts for me to keep my pen moving against the paper, but the writing turns into an unintelligible scrawl as his words sink in. His expression is proof enough that he isn't teasing me. His lips are set into a firm line, his muscular arms crossed in front of his chest. After a few moments, when I'm certain my voice and expression are schooled, I continue that line of questioning. So you're each other's alibi, then? I suppose that's the case. His eyes flicker briefly away from me, and his tail lowers to the ground. Is this information that you'd rather doesn't spread? The tension melts away as if I dreamt it up. He chuckles at my question, and I find myself watching the muscles of his abdomen as they tense. You're a funny one. Nobody in this city cares who does what and with however many partners, as long as it's not in the streets. I find myself blushing as I put his words to paper. Why were you late on the morning of the incident? Some elven business came up. Right before the beginning of the festival? When you live as long as I do, investigator, you come to realize that there's two kinds of business. There's the business you can put off, and the business you can't. Usually, if you don't handle the first, it becomes the second. I try not to make that mistake. That's very organized of you. I find myself smiling at his explanation. The compliment comes out accidentally, and it earns me a bright grin. Thank you. His tone softens slightly, a low, warm rumble compared to his usual demanding voice. I almost find it difficult to focus on the work at hand. Are you using some kind of spell on me? Can you tell me any more about the elven business that made you late? Or does the Dread Festival use the same agenda every year? That last part might be some useful information, actually. But also the second one. No, I think I want to know specifically what he was dealing with that morning. While the smile on the Earth Aspect's face doesn't shift, his tail bristles. And I've seen enough small cats to know what that means. No. Alarm bells go off in my head at the sudden shift in aura. The word rings between us in a cool, steely tone. I've hit a wall with this line of questioning. Or perhaps I realize it's simply best I don't push it for now. Alright, my apologies. Better move on to another question quickly. Who do you think is responsible for the incident? Welcome back, Nick. The Terror's eyes narrow at my question, his lips pursing into a scowl. Whoever they are, they couldn't have escaped far. I've put Omnis into lockdown. No one can leave or enter. That wasn't my question. His eyes, like molten gold, slid to me, and for a split second, I could imagine what it was like to be this man's enemy. To stand against a man who could move a mountain. Literally. Someone or something that wishes to weaken us, to drive fear into the hearts of our people. And when I find them, I will tear them to pieces with my bare hands, and leave them to rot on the altar of celebration until the crows have picked the meat clean from their remains, and the bear rats have dissolved the bones with their shit. I would like to know what a bear rat is. Like, what scale are we dealing with here? Are we dealing with rat scale or bear scale or somewhere in between? It takes me a moment to close my mouth and remember to write this down. Silence stretches out between us, the only sound of ink on paper, before I look up at the demigod before me, another question in mind. Can a lockdown hold a child of evil? Is there any chance that one of yours betrayed you? Or what could anyone hope to gain from ruining the opening ritual? Please be rat scale. I would definitely prefer like rat-scaled bears to bear-scaled rats, depending on how many there were. Good, which is also a point. Yeah, can a lockdown hold a child of evil? The goddess of chaos, Varvare, has already proven her domain through escaping her seal. The way we can balance chaos is through order. I do that best. You think that you'd stave off her corruption by simply making your people follow your demands? Curfew, increased security, tracking spells. If there's anyone who can catch a source of havoc and neutralize it, then that will be me. Cocky. I simply have faith in myself. He picks a puff of who knows what off his braces, examining it unceremoniously before flicking it into the small empty bin beside my door. Is that draconic leather? A gift from your Mercutio after I ripped the Ignis's arm off a few years ago. The wound lessened the burden on your northern borders significantly, or so I've been told. Mercutio, the Aegis of the Ares Empire, the strongest male dragon. He ruled his territory of Eastern Dragonfang with an iron fist. His name usually inspires fear and awe within me. I didn't recognize those feelings stirring now. The Terror's easygoing first-name basis approach had shocked me into stupor. A knock sounds on the door, breaking us away from our session. The Terror's eyes move from the door to me, his lips pursed as he steps away from it. For a man so famous for his control, he sure had no problem giving it away. I'd half expected him to answer before I'd blinked. Come in? The door creaks open, and I find myself looking at a handsome, lithe, silver-haired elf who offers the Terror a low bow. Alora? You are needed in the square to help set up the fire dancing festival, Natura. Of course, I will be right there. Though I am annoyed by the interruption, I nod my head when Terra's gaze returns to me. I will see you at the fire dancing then, investigator. Do you have appropriate clothes for the event? I find myself caught off guard by the question. I'll have some sent to your room before tonight, then. Ah, he's going to continue gifting me clothes, is he? I mean, that's helpful. Are you always buying strangers a whole new wardrobes? Usually, only those who ask nicely. His grin stirs in me something fierce. Natura! I'm coming, Alora. He's out of the door before I can poke at his words, leaving my brain scrambled with information and my stomach with warmth. As I'm looking down at my notes from the first 2 sessions, churning the new information in my brain, the door to my room swings open with such violence that I reach for the dagger underneath the desk. For a second, the shadows grow deeper, darker, and I wonder if they've moved on their own before the general marches into my room unannounced. Ah! Turning up when he wants, huh? Also, I want to have a look at the journal, because I'm guessing there's a lot more in it now. Yep. Information and impressions. At these, we've got a schedule. I feel like this has got some information that I shouldn't have yet with Aqua here. Oh, there is a lot of information there that I'm not going to read right now. With 4 quick strides of his long legs, he reaches my desk, his tall form blocking out the rays of sun from the nearby window like a storm cloud. A thick stack of papers is deposited unceremoniously onto my desk, and it takes everything within me not to wince as I notice the smudges of various shades of red and brown along with the inky scrawl upon them. Why is there blood on this, sir? I put my dagger back in its desk sheath. This desk comes with a knife sheath? I make up to get up and bow, but he raises a hand to stop me. I will not stay. I have taken up the task of personally questioning everyone from our delegation who prayed in front of the wax this morning. I feel the blood drain from my face as my eyes flit between him and the stack of papers before me. I clear my throat to help find my voice. And did you find anything of note? His eyes narrowed with unfiltered annoyance. No. He turns around, heading for the door just as abruptly as he'd entered through it, each step increasing the anxiety settling on my shoulders. We do need to ask you questions. Sorry, General. Shadow Master, with all due respect, I would also like to ask you a few questions. My breathing halts the moment his footsteps do. I remind myself to count to 10, to move, to show signs of life, as he levels me with one of his famous glares and shadows in the room darken. Consider these 10 minutes of my time charity for a lost cause. My breathing resumes with a huff, and I am quickly reminded of my dislike for the disrespect of the ruling generals of Ares. Annoyance washes over my fear, steadying me as I flip open a new page on my journal. You've been to the Dread Festival before. Did you notice anything different in its setup this time around? The elves knew Aqua through the welcoming party yesterday night. He reeks of trouble. I raise my eyebrow at the observations as I scribble the pointless answer down. Perhaps the Shadow Master used salty wine and trouble interchangeably. I wouldn't be surprised, considering the stick up his ass. Could you elaborate? He's cocky and impulsive, an intention seeker with zero regard for the consequences of his actions. Could it be he was still bothered by the way the Aqua flirted with him in front of everyone? I push the thought down, ignoring the urge to smirk. The current Aqua has been present and active for the 2 previous Dread Festivals as well, but no incidents occurred then. I point out, my tone professional, controlled, earning me a scowl from the man before me. The Shadow Master opens his mouth, and then seems to think better of what he wants to say and closes it, glancing pointedly at the clock on my desk instead. I do my best to ignore the way this annoys me. Who do you think is responsible for the incident? The seals placed on the children of evil are of ancient, complicated magic. This rules all mortal simpletons from our delegation out of the list of culprits at the very least. I purse my lips, ignoring the stab this asshole just light-heartedly made at my intelligence as he keeps talking. Whether this is a conscious betrayal or a hand guided by the anger of a god. Those who would know to unseal a tomb bound by a millennium-old spell could likely be counted on the fingers of one hand. My hand freezes mid-air. The unspoken words linger between us for a few moments before I finally press my quill to the pages of the journal again, seemingly snapping the General from his continued unspoken thoughts. His gaze flits to me, and then to the space around me, before he crosses his arms over his chest. His lips set into a firm line as if he knows what I'll ask him before I even open my mouth. You intend to question the gods? The Terror and his high priests and priestesses can communicate with the original gods in bits and pieces. They know their intentions, their views, see the shifts of the divine web before any mortal can. You think the Terror knew this could happen? He scoffs, one foot tapping impatiently against the wooden floor. If he is as powerful as he says he is, then he should be aware of most fates woven by the fingers of the gods. What do you think was the aim of this, of whoever is responsible for the incident? This winter bore the greatest losses ever seen by this long-enduring alliance. Some would blame the elven leadership for the grave numbers. Others might blame us. You think someone is trying to stage a power coup? The Shadow Master shrugs, and the action is human enough that I find myself staring. Whoever they are, only the gods can save them now, and they better pray long and hard because their chances of survival after that sorry stunt is 0. His eyes glitter like sharp ruby gems, and I recognize those words to be not a belief, but a promise. The complex web of information only seems to grow thicker and more convoluted. I hate to admit it, but the General has given me a lot to think about in the last minutes. My brain is running at 1,000,000 miles per hour as I flip between the pages of information, picking through the bits and pieces I find important. Whatever question I want to answer next, however, doesn't see the page as I hear his boots begin moving toward the door. Well, we should thank him for his time. I glance up from my papers as he pulls the door open. Thank you for your time, General. His gaze flickers in my direction briefly as he pauses in the entryway. Do make an effort not to get yourself killed, investigator. Not everyone loves obnoxious buttons meddling in their business. He steps out and shuts the door behind him, leaving me staring indignantly at the space he'd just left. My earlier bout of fear completely forgotten, now replaced with a warm, boiling rage slithering underneath my chest. If I wasn't in an embassy building, I would scream. What a fucking ass! Sila, Peer, and Lovak give me strength. Okay, down to the Aqua. I wasn't sure if it was because Mors Mortis had called everyone present a suspect, but I found myself diligently studying Aqua as he sat on a chair in front of my work desk. A very ornate chair that hadn't been there until right before I asked for the aspect of water to stop by for questioning. It was carved of some expensive wood, packed with comfortable cushions, and sparkled with pearls of various colours and sizes. A perfect seat for the man who lounged on top of it as if he was king of the world. Legs crossed, chin popped up on one hand, he offered me a lazy smile that made something in my chest twist. He was perhaps the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. It was annoying to no end. Should I summon a painter? You seem so fond of staring. My cheeks flushed and I cleared my throat. Glancing down at my journal, I found it logical. I started off by asking him the following questions. Did you notice anything unusual happening in the hours before the incident? Not really. I was too busy sleeping off a hangover. After a long night of enjoying the revelry, I helped your embassy throw. His voice dipped into a softer, more melodic tone. It truly was a shame you couldn't stay. How long into the night did the revelry continue? I don't know. I didn't stay for the whole thing. And why not? I found a better use of my time. His tone dipped into something softer, and his eyes attained that pure, raw heat that could only mean one thing. I nodded, my cheeks no doubt as bright as his eyeshadow. Why were you late the morning of the incident? Aqua scoffed at my question. I am late only if you go by the words of Mors Mortis. If anyone else had organised the Dread Festival this year, they wouldn't have said a word. Others can organise the festival? Of course. It is a rotating duty between all aspects. It just so happens that this year the pleasure fell on Mors Mortis's shoulders. Was there anything different between how Mors Mortis organised this year's festival compared to previous ones? No clue. I was delegated with the task of organising your arrival banquet, so I was fully focused on that. No wonder it was so lavish and chaotic. Who do you think is responsible for the incident? Aqua raises an eyebrow at my question. If it was thrown in at the deep end... if I was thrown in at the deep end, I wouldn't go about attracting the attention of the sharks. Are you threatening me? He laughed as though I'd asked something terribly amusing. His different coloured eyes glittered like sea glass. You Aresians are always looking for a reason for an argument or a fight. Do you know a lot of Aresians? A few. And that's enough to draw up such conclusions? Perhaps. I do my best not to roll my eyes. So we can go with, I will repeat myself, who do you think is responsible for the incident? Or let me rephrase, do you know of anyone who might benefit from freeing a dangerous goddess from her 2,000-year slumber? Or could you tell me a bit more about the missing goddess? I think the middle one. Let me rephrase. Do you know of anyone who might benefit from freeing a dangerous goddess from her 2,000-year-old slumber? Excluding our enemies? I grit my teeth at his nonchalant yawn. I haven't sensed any dangerous emotions from anyone, if that's what you've been asking me. I find myself uncertain of what to put down on the paper in front of me. I'm sorry. You can sense emotions? My fellow Naturas call it empathy. Partially comes with the territory of holding the elven throne in the city of Amor. So you get powers from ruling a city? In return for what? Spreading peace, harmony, and love, of course. Maybe you'd let me explore that. Maybe you'd let me help you explore that too at some point. Clearly, you need it more than anyone else around the festival. I roll my eyes as my cheeks flush at his blatant proposition. That was all very helpful. Thank you. Did you find that? I appreciate the attempt at lengthening our time together, Investigator. I am a busy man. I find myself gaping at him. I wasn't... The grin he gives me as he makes to get up is downright infuriating. I I should have a free time slot for you after 5 hours if you wish to continue your disquisition. You can't just... But he can. And he proves that point by making his way out of the door to my small room before I can finish my sentence. Oop. And that is the end of the demo. There you go. The beginning of an investigation. Which I really want to get my teeth into now, but I can't because the full game isn't out yet. So yeah, that's that. We are done. As I said at the beginning of the stream, you can find a bunch of links for this game in the description box. A link to the Kickstarter preview page where you can sign up to be notified of that, to Steam where you can go and wishlist, and a few others. The aesthetics of this game have been great, honestly. And yeah, it's a different vibe. I like how much difference we've had between all of the demos this week. The variety has been very nice. Yes, links below. There's also links below to my social media, which is underneath those. If you want, you can follow me there. Also, if you're new and you've enjoyed your time, you can consider subscribing to the channel. Yep, one more demo tomorrow to round out the week. That one's going to be a lot shorter. Yes, roll it back a little bit before I get to that. The streaming schedule for this channel is both over here on YouTube in the posts tab of the channel and over on my social medias. The next scheduled stream is tomorrow, Saturday, 7 PM again, for the last demo for this week, which is, and I'm going to go and get the full name so that I get all of it. Where is it? Pre-Odyssey Love at First Quack, which is a mythology-themed game with ducks, which sounds like it's going to be adorable and a lot of fun. So, I'll see you then, or another time. Once again, thank you very much for coming, and this is Kalla signing out. See ya! Bye bye!